Have you ever wondered how big of a difference speakers make in the sound of your guitar amp? Well, I have, and I'm hoping that I can shed a little light on that topic today. What I've done is I have found a bunch of speakers from random sources and I'm going to try them with my guitar amp. I would love to be able to do this with a bunch of high-end guitar speakers, but I don't currently have access to a bunch of those. I do have a Celestion Greenback here that I will be trying, as well as a bunch of speakers that I've taken out of different old appliances. So if you've ever wondered if you can use a different speaker in your guitar amp, this might be a good video to watch to get a feel for what they could sound like. Most of the speakers that I've got so far have come from a variety of sources, either from old tube amps, old radios, a couple from old organs, so not specifically guitar amps, but you gotta remember, back in the day, when guitar amps were first being produced, they were essentially using old radio components and the same components that they were using in hi-fi equipment at that time. So, we're gonna get into that and try swapping a few speakers around to see what kind of sounds we can get. The amp that we'll be using for this adventure is my Ceriatone Lightning. This little amp is perfect for what we're trying to do because it's fairly low wattage and it has a 12-inch speaker cabinet, and lastly it's got different taps on the output transformer so that I can use 16, 4 or 8 ohm speakers. So here you go, we can select the different impedance for our different speakers so that we can try either again using a 16, 8 or a 4 ohm. And because the speakers are from different sources, we do have different speaker, with different resistances on each of those speakers, so we can match them up appropriately for this amp, which again is very important because we want to keep that output transformer working properly and we don't want to wreck any of our tubes. Currently, this little amp has a Celestion Greenback, a G12 in it, just I think the Chinese variant. So nothing too fancy. What we'll do is we'll get a bass line with this and we will then be able to compare it against all of our other speakers. In order to keep things as consistent as possible, I've opted to use an Audio-Technica AT4040, which is a fairly transparent condenser mic, and keep it at a nice distance away from the guitar amp so that we can be consistent. I'm also going to be using this here Fender Stratocaster, which it's a Mexican-made Stratocaster, but it's equipped with some American Alnico 5 pickups and the Delta Tone circuit. We'll also be running through 2 pedals, straightforward there with a tuner with a buffer in it, and then of course super overdrive, because that's fairly common, and most people should have an idea of what that kind of tube screamer-ish circuit sounds like. Okay. Let's talk some speakers. So, the first speaker we're going to try today is a Celestion Greenback, G12 Greenback. It's for the Chinese variant, like I said earlier. I don't have it here right now because it's in the amp currently. Second speaker we're going to look at is this here speaker. It's got an Alnico type magnet in the back. It came out of an old organ, a tube organ that had 2 speakers in it. This was the other one. They're very similar. They both have similar type magnets on the back. They do have different cones though, different dust cap in the center, and I think probably one of these speakers got swapped out at one time for one reason or another. We're going to try them both to see how they sound. 16 ohms because they were wired up together to be probably in serial parallel to get 8 ohms. Next speaker we're going to try is this one, also from an old organ. I don't remember what kind of amplifier was in it, running it, but it's a ceramic magnet on the back of this guy. A little more hefty, probably more similar to the Greenback, which is rated at about 25 watts. I'm guessing this is probably in that ballpark, where these other 2 ones may be a little bit lower on the wattage rating. We're going to give this guy a try. This one came out of an old radio, actually, is what this one came out of. An old radio, a tube radio, probably a single-ended Class A, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember correctly, and it, again, similar, an Alnico type magnet. This one's sealed up on both sides. All 12-inch speakers today. And lastly, this guy. This one came out of a radio unit, so this one it was part of a stereo pair. There was 2 12-inch speakers and then 2 smaller 8-inch ones. I grabbed one of the 12s to give it a try. A lot smaller magnet on the back. I'm thinking that it's probably ceramic, but it's got a bit of a cover on it here, and I didn't pop the cover off to look. But obviously you can see it's quite a bit smaller than, say, for example, this ceramic magnet on the back of this guy. So we will see how it sounds, be gentle with it, go from there. An interesting turn of events. This speaker here, I was trying to get it to work, doesn't seem to be giving us any sound. I have used this speaker in the past for different things, so I'm not totally sure what the deal is, but I will keep working on it. Might have to report back on what this one sounds like at a later date. thanks so much for watching. Hopefully that gives you a little bit of an idea of how much of a difference the speaker in your guitar amp can make, and that you can use speakers that aren't necessarily considered guitar speakers. That said, as always, do make sure that you match the impedance of the speaker with the impedance of the output transformer on your guitar amp. If you're not sure, don't do it. Take it to a qualified amp tech, get them to take a peek at it for you, or to swap, or make sure that you use a speaker that you should be using. That said, it is kind of fun to try different things, and definitely give it a whirl. So thanks again.